Monian downs talamu, stalm hina gruagach stu halin.
Hi, this is Courtney Williams with Outlander Behind the Scenes, bringing you the last segment of my interview with Àdhamh Ó Broin. In this segment, Àdhamh sort of wraps everything up for us about his work with the Gaelic language. He talks about his kids speaking Gaelic at home and what that experience is like. He tells us his goals, and he also tells us how we can find out what's being said in the show, and how we can contribute to his work if we want to as well. That's at the end. Please enjoy this last segment of my interview with Àdhamh Ó Broin. Thank you. All right, we're live.
It's alive.
We're live. Can you just give a summary of what you're doing in case people don't know with your funds and with your sort of your life work, what that is with Gaelic?
Well, I suppose when I first heard people talking about a Gaelic revival or saw it written down, I took it totally literally. I took it at face value that people actually wanted to revive the language. Oh, so we're going to revive this language. So if I'm learning to speak it, and then once I got to fluency and I moved through every stage in the process, every time I did move to another stage, I got more committed to the revival because I realised how necessary it was. And if nobody acted, we were going to end up the chute. So that meant grasping every possible opportunity, working absolutely tirelessly and passionately at all times. Well, why would the language be worth anything less? That's what I don't get. People say, oh, who do you think you are? You've got some kind of messiah complex. No, I don't. I just take it absolutely seriously that if you're going to revive a language, don't do it by halves.
So you are going about that I know that you're going to visit some of the older people in the villages and you're talking with them and gaining words that have gone out of use.
Oh, gesorgd chance na like and I do shake it.
Tell them Gaelic. I'll make you the Navy, Brian Gaelic, and make a Brian from here.
Oh, be.
Be a new character. Oh, I'm not three canemy. From here, may put in your log and your share.
Oh, well, I'll be here. Not get my own sick, me share Gaelic, when we Brian room here.
Well, I mean, really what I'm trying to do is stimulate interest for intergenerational transmission to be re-established, for people to start spending time with their grands and granddads or their parents or their aunties or uncles, and not only that, their neighbours or people that they whatever, go to church with or meet in the shop or bump into in the street or whatever, and oh, they're a Gaelic speaker, and I kind of am, and maybe I could tidy my Gaelic up by sitting with those older folks and learning about the way they see the world and about their even their ethical outlook as a part of this. It's all interwoven, learning that songs and poetry and traditions, and for it not to be like an animal that's stuffed and mounted in a museum. Do you know what I mean? Right. The way I see it is, it's like people saying that the revival is going to be accomplished just by putting kids through Gaelic medium schools is almost like saying, oh, the Java tiger. Oh, well, it's not endangered now. There's plenty of Java tigers in zoos.
Got it. Right. To you, it's a living, breathing thing that occupies your heritage and your land, and you're just trying to...
It's all interwoven, exactly. It's not just something that exists in a sort of sterile educational environment where, kids are being educated. Yeah, that's great. And I mean, for instance, my kids go to the Gaelic school in Glasgow, and it's a great school. It's got fantastic results coming in. The kids, have a good time there. They've got a good disciplinary record. They're right up in the league tables. Lots of stuff that you would desire for a good school. So that's great. But, I didn't send my kids there, just so because it was a good school. There was plenty of good schools around. Do you know what I mean? I sent my kids there because I wanted them to have that as part of the bigger picture, you know, of Gaelic being in, you know, and sort of the foundation for their cultural lives. So, like I say, I took the whole picture holistically, and I saw the language and culture as being a lifestyle, you know, not just like, you know, you put a kilt on at a wedding and then you take it back off and put it in the cupboard, you know, like an affectation. You know, I saw the whole thing as, well, you know, it's either worth everything or it's worth nothing. Gaelic's a wild being, and it needs to be let loose on the land again. Keep me miracle. Oh, you know, like that. Tina gada. Drún Dorist. Gramakit. Keep me miracle, hey.
Do your guys speak any English at home, or it's all Gaelic?
They don't speak any English to me, but they speak more or less only English to my wife. So they've been bilingual, well, since birth, really. You know, they don't think about it. It's Gaelic with me and English with the mum. And I would say about 75% Gaelic with each other. They don't speak a lot of English together. If they're just with their mum and they're all out together and the conversation's been flowing with their mum in English, then sure, they'll just carry that on in English. But if we're both there, then they tend to err on the side of Gaelic. They've already got the language loyalty, which is really good, you know. And they've got English so they can communicate with the rest of the world, you know, which is always useful.
How about Lisa? How's her Gaelic?
Perfectly passively fluent, so she understands every word that you spoke. Oliver, you know, it would be. she certainly, you couldn't get anything by her. However, it's languages are maybe not so much her strong point. So she's got a lot of skills I don't have, like organizing things.
So you once said that your kids use Gaelic to play and communicate their emotions. Do you feel like Gaelic is better for imagination and emotional communication?
I would say Gaelic is better for that in Scotland as a Scot. You can only get so far as a Scot speaking English before you run up against a brick wall, you know, and I know that Scots who don't speak Gaelic would be like, it's rubbish. And it's like, yeah, it's rubbish because you don't speak it, so you don't know. But now, having learned Gaelic to complete fluency, and not only that, but I can speak two distinct dialects of it, I'm kind of like, no, this is a whole new level of Scottish expression that you just can't get with English. So I suppose if they're talking about their country, about their culture, about who they are as people, you know, which they're obviously starting to do, especially my 9-year-old, then they'll do that in Gaelic.
Your name is spelled Àdhamh, but that's not how you pronounce it in Gaelic, right?
Well, in English it would be spelled Àdhamh, but you know, no, I mean, a D is a D, just as in English. When you add an H after it, it becomes G. An M is an M, just as it is in English. You add an H after it, it becomes V. So it becomes Àdhamh. So, although it seems nuts, it's totally logical. It's just a different set of rules, you know? Yes. Like you look at a mathematical equation as someone who maybe isn't great with maths, and you go, that's just a lot of rubbish. It's just someone's left a child on a chair in front of a blackboard with a bit of chalk and just said, look, have at it, you know, and it's just a bunch of random shapes. But to a mathematician, they're like, no, this is genius. You know, it's the same with Gaelic. Once you get your head around how the spelling works, then it's honestly, reading it is actually a piece of cake once you get an idea of how the spelling works, because it doesn't let you down. Whereas I find myself saying this so often, but it should be repeated as often as possible. English is a genuine nightmare and really shouldn't be allowed. It should be made illegal. I think English should just be banned from the world.
That makes me think of this one, I Love Lucy.
Once upon a time in the woods lived a peasant. He was a good man with a noble heart. He spent his time in the forest cutting down bushes from the trees.
That's boughs.
Cutting wood all day made his hands strong and raw. One day,
That's rough.
one day he cut wood so fast that by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, his day's work was through. Through?
T-H-R-O-U-G-H is pronounced through.
It started to rain on the way home, and he got so wet that his nose became red, and he developed a hacking. Who?
It's cough.
Oh, that did it. I had enough. Or should I say, enough? Enough. I don't see why you have to have such a crazy language anyway.
Yeah, that's it. Or throw, like though, or thrup, like hiccup.
Yeah, exactly.
English is literally insane.
How about Outlander fans who are interested in understanding what's being said in the show in Gaelic? Is there any sort of resource available for them?
If in doubt, look at Mandy's Great Scott blog. She'll always have it eventually, because I let her stew for a wee while, and then I go, all right, Mandy, I'll give you the rest of it. She always makes a really valiant attempt to work it out.
Tell us what your goals are, if you have a crowdfunder or whatever you want to tell anybody who wants to learn and potentially support you.
Well, I mean, I don't have a crowdfund at the moment. I ran a successful one last year. And if you visit Dalriada, so DALRIADA.Scot, you'll see the material that has gradually been added to there. We've only added probably about 100th of what's actually, it will take the next 2 or 3 years to actually complete the website, maybe even the next 5 years. So that's kind of underway. Eventually, what I'd like to do is kind of set up some sort of little tip jar so that I can keep doing field work, because it's a fairly long drive to get to some of these places. It's a heavy toll on the fuel, and then you're just having to pick up some sustenance while you're out, and then you need to pick up batteries for the dictaphone, or you need to there's all sorts of things you need to be able to do. And it can become a strain if you're literally just paying for that out of your own pocket. So eventually, I may get round to getting something set up where if people, would in fact, if they would like me to investigate a particular dialect or find out things for them on a particular thing, then I can pursue my own ends and do that at the same time, and people can kind of, donate and get field work done. Why not head out to Islay and find out, about the fishing tradition there? Okay, let's do it. It's that sort of thing I'd quite like to do eventually, where I can almost be on call to an extent and pursue things that really need done before we lose any more of the old folks that are still with us.
To contribute to our ongoing work in Dalriada to try and save the dialect and bring it back to the status of a living language, you can send a PayPal donation to dalriadagaelic@gmail.com, and we would be basically forever in your debt. Anything that you can give us towards that is just massively appreciated, and it just goes such a long way, even the smallest amount. Thank you so much in advance. Cheers.
Go hen a bodge and go get bog a hook me loy gut money an downs talam hin a gruagachs du halin downes boche ddim veoch at all mi fuagut Money and downs talamu.